What's up, Bills Mafia, and welcome to our brand new Buffalo Bills YouTube channel here at Chat Sports. I'm Harrison Graham. We don't have a permanent host. You'll see some different faces here, but we're launching this channel, and we want to bring you guys as much content as possible here at Chat Sports. We almost have all 32 NFL teams now, and the Bills are our latest one to launch, so shout out to the Mafia out there. Another great season, obviously a disappointing ending. We're going to talk about that here today, among other things as well. And here's the deal. For you longtime Chat Sports viewers, once you get to 1,000 subs, more content can be expected to come your way and onto your feed. So if you're a diehard Bills fan, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications. We're at 665 subscribers, which means we're 335 away from 1,000. Help us out, subscribe, and let's get this channel rocking. Okay, let's talk about Sean McDermott, who is obviously a very good coach. Is he a great elite coach? I think that's up for debate, but there's some Bills fans, some NFL pundits, people on social media, and just the thought of, have you maxed out with McDermott? Is he someone you can go all the way with and win that Super Bowl? Obviously, you're stuck in this Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes era, so it's going to be difficult regardless of who the coach is. But I think it's a fair kind of thing to wonder here. Obviously, he's had an excellent run, especially considering where the Bills were before he got there. They didn't make the playoffs for like 20 years, so he's done tremendously well getting to the playoffs with Tyrod Taylor in 2017, and obviously since 2019 have been a fixture in the postseason. Several playoff wins, a couple of AFC Championship appearances, a couple brutal losses in the playoffs, a couple to Patrick Mahomes, certainly, especially this one this past Sunday. I think when you look at McDermott and you think about this, I really do think it's a double-edged sword because you know what you have with him. You're going to be buttoned up. You're going to be one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the AFC, probably for the foreseeable future and probably as long as Josh Allen is playing quarterback. But can you get more? Like, can you be better than what you were? Could a different voice elevate you and beat Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes in one of these high leverage spots? Because up to this point, you've been unable to do it, and the Bills are capable. They've beaten the Chiefs in the regular season, but one thing we know about the Chiefs that I think we do have to question about the Bills at this point is the Chiefs find another gear. They find another level. Can the Bills find another level with Sean McDermott? I think up to this point, while they've performed well in the playoffs, the answer to that, at least in terms of matching the Chiefs' level, is you'd have to say it's no, unfortunately. So I do think this is a fair question to ask, even if it seems unfair, considering they were just one of the final 4 teams in the NFL. Now, I think one thing that helps in the short term is that Joe Brady is back. He withdrew his name from consideration for the Saints job before the AFC Championship game, so you're going to have another year with him. And speaking of elevating, I do think he helped elevate this offense when he took over for Ken Dorsey last year. Josh Allen's turnovers went down. He was able to unlock the running game with James Cook and company. So I do think that that has been a good move. And obviously this year they got closer to the finish line than they had the last couple of years with Ken Dorsey since Brian Daboll had left. So I like that. That is big for Buffalo. It also does this. If for whatever reason next year, which I think should be an all-in year, let's say they lose in like the divisional round and maybe the defense isn't great, because I think that's got to be said too. The defense wasn't great this year. What it does is if you feel strongly about Joe Brady, you could, in theory, make him the head coach. If you want to go offensive guy as your head coach. So I think if I'm a Bills fan, if I'm running the Bills, I want to go all in next year. I'm bringing back McDermott, which clearly, if they were going to move on, that would have happened by now, I think we would assume. With Brady coming back, full steam ahead next year. The salary cap, they don't have a ton of room. Maybe you can cut a few guys and try to take a big swing on a free agent or a trade to elevate this team, especially on defense. But then I think you really reevaluate next offseason, because entering 2026, that'll be Josh Allen's 30-year-old season. I think that's when you kind of look at this and you're like, okay, do we want to keep rolling with McDermott, or do we risk a little bit and take a swing at a new voice? Because at that point, I think that would be open to discussion. More on this in a moment, but first, I just want to hear from Bills fans. Can the Bills win a Super Bowl with Sean McDermott? Pretty simple. Yes or no. Type Y for yes. Type in for no. Can the Bills win the whole thing if Sean McDermott is the head coach? They've been close to getting to the Super Bowl. Haven't done it yet, though. Y for yes and for no. Because what you don't want to do is waste one of the best players of this generation in Josh Allen. Now, I don't think it's been a waste. Excuse me, up to this point. Again, the Bills were a joke before McDermott and Allen, and now they're one of the fixtures of the sport. So this is not some like career up to this point that's been a disappointment. Like, you're in the playoffs every year, you're in the mix, you're knocking on the door. There's a lot to be said for that. But for a franchise who once lost 4 Super Bowls in a row with Jim Kelly, who now has one of the best players of this generation and, I don't know, one of the 15, 20 best quarterbacks of all time, what you don't want is to look up in 5 years and be like, man, should we have made a change? Should we have tried something else? I think if you don't win it all next year, especially if you lose kind of early in the playoffs, I do think a change at head coach has to be considered. Now, Josh Allen has done what a franchise quarterback and leader should do, and that is defend his head coach. So that's the crazy thing about it. Time in, time out. He's got us in position, and we're fighting to get over the hump, and he gives his life to this. And to see him adapt and really grow as a coach has been fun to watch. I respect the hell out of Coach. One thing that does have to be asked, though, and I think we saw it again this past Sunday, is can he make a bigger impact on game day, Sean McDermott being, especially against Andy Reid and the Chiefs? Obviously, when Andy Reid's the play caller, you're going to feel his game day impact more, but Sean McDermott as a CEO still has to find a way to leave his imprint. Just look at the beginning of that game. Bills offense goes 3 and out. Bills defense gets run over by the Chiefs. You're down 7-0 early, and the Chiefs get the ball and start the second half. Like, that's major advantage Kansas City early. And the beginning of these games are largely coaching game plans, and then you get into the adjustments as the flow of the game goes on. Obviously, Buffalo battled back, took a lead at one point, had a chance to win this game. Not saying they coached poorly, but they got hit in the mouth early. And to me, a lot of that is coaching. That is coming out with the right mindset, the right plan, and execution. And the Bills did not do that. And I just feel like in a lot of these big, big games, especially against the Chiefs, you feel the coaching advantage. Now, if you fire McDermott, are you going to get someone that's better than Andy Reid? Probably not, but do you go the style of the Chiefs like, hey, offensive head coach who calls the plays, we know his presence is going to be felt. I think that's at least fair to entertain. Because you're watching one of the greatest players that I've ever seen in Josh Allen. Now, again, in the playoffs, Mahomes elevates, all that. He obviously deserves the edge when debating these two. But outside of Mahomes, I mean, he's like the Phil Mickelson to Tiger Woods. He's as good as it gets. There's just an all-time great playing right now in the same era. So, again, back to that double-edged sword. Do you kind of just ride this out and you're like, well, maybe we just get lucky one year and we don't have to go through the Chiefs. Maybe someone else beats them. Or do you take matters into your own hands and say, you know what? We can't bank on someone else knocking out the Chiefs. We're going to have to do it. And maybe, just maybe, you make a change to make a change, which I'm typically against. But how many times do you have to come up short to this team in the playoffs before you're like, you know what? We're not going to get rid of Josh, obviously. Maybe we just change head coaches. Because if I'm a Bills fan, a diehard, and I've seen all this heartbreak over the years, I just can't live with the thought and the idea of Josh Allen's career coming and going, Sean McDermott being the head coach the whole time and never breaking through. I like Sean McDermott. I think he's a really good head coach. But does he have some status where you're just like, there's no way you'd consider pivoting off of him when you have an all-time great quarterback and you can't break through in the postseason? I think he's very good. I think he's a top 10 head coach. I wouldn't put him in the top 5. And I think that's where you have to look at this and say, okay, Brady's back. We're going to go for it in 2025 again. But if we can't get over the hump, we might need to look at a new voice as our head coach. How many more years do you think Sean McDermott will be the head coach? I think it really depends on next year. If they at least get to the Super Bowl next year, he's probably here for a long time. If they don't, and especially if they don't even get to the AFC Championship game, and if they lose to the Chiefs, I think at some point you do have to consider trying someone else. All right, that's going to do it for today's Bills breakdown. Again, great season. Obviously not the finish Bills Mafia wanted, but we're going to be here every single day, or at least most days, to bring you guys content. Once we get 1,000 subs, you can really expect our content to increase. So subscribe, spread the word, tell your friends. My name is Harrison Graham. We'll see you guys next time here on the Bills Breakdown.